All right, everyone, welcome to our first panel of the day, Defi 2.0. Our moderator is Abhishek Saxena, principal at Polygon Ventures, with panelists Sogol Malek, founder of Xtreamly, Varun Kumar, founder and CEO of Hashflow, and Ilya Naryzhnyy, CIO of 1inch. Take it away.
Wow, this is a full room. So much interest in DeFi. Anyways, happy to start the first panel for the conference. Should we just start with a quick intro so that people know what exactly everyone does, and with that context, we can then begin?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sogol Malek, founder of Xtreamly and core developer fellow at Ethereum Foundation. And I'm very much excited about AI and intersection of AI and blockchain. And that's how we just wanted to tackle one of the hardest problems in DeFi, particularly 2.0. So yeah, happy to share more insights.
Hey guys, this is Varun here from Hashflow. So yeah, I think topics I'm interested in includes like cross-chain interoperability, modular thesis, ZK, and just generally building like really good consumer products, particularly exchanges.
Good morning. I am Ilya. I am CIO from 1inch. So happy to share with you my knowledge and get knowledge from my colleagues. Thank you.
And I'm Abhishek. I lead all infrastructure, gaming, infrastructure, DeFi, enterprise and consumer investments for Polygon Ventures, the ecosystem fund for Polygon. But DeFi has been a passion from a long, long time ago of mine. So glad to be here. I think the panel is called DeFi 2.0. And like in the last cycle, who was here in the last cycle, like during 2021, 2020? Okay, we got some folks. So in the last cycle, if you remember, DeFi 2.0 was all of this Olympus DAO, all of this high inflation, high yield coins. I'm sure it has changed now, but would love to get an understanding from the panelist. What, in your sense, is the new DeFi 2.0?
I was going to say like aping into shitcoins and Solana, but you know, but more so than that, I think the way I saw DeFi 1.0 was essentially where it was for the first time you essentially saw what open source finance looks like. Like prior to that, obviously, we were building, you know, it was all creating the building blocks on how do you make finance open source and accessible to everyone. But for the first time, you sort of saw that in action with Uniswap coming up, then obviously 1inch, and as we kind of sprouted in that DeFi 1.0 era where you essentially start experimenting with this technology and you saw what could happen if you let anybody just access it and you know how it can scale, right? So, and then obviously some technologies stayed, others didn't work out, like Ohm, for example. But 2.0, the way I see it is this, like we are taking the lessons that we learned from 1.0 and now we're building more refined, sophisticated consumer-facing apps and infrastructure as well to actually help bring this to a greater audience than who had access to. So if you saw 1.0 as an introduction to what DeFi feels like, 2.0 is where you kind of scale that from one to end to see how you can actually apply this at a more macro scale with more scalable infrastructure, right? So
I can go next. I think for me, DeFi 2.0 is all about efficiency in capital provision. Obviously, DeFi is entering to the new era in 2024 and beyond that, and actually with more kind of renowned optimism and more sort of maturity in infrastructure side. And I think even from the other side, the centralized banks with the signaling sort of cutting rates makes DeFi yielding, for example, very much more interesting type of alternative investments for people. And also from DeFi version 1, as people just mentioning, it was like sort of all about yields, monoliths, and sort of hacks, and of course sort of incentives. And all innovation in 2021 was around sort of shaping the liquidity provision curve for hedged assets and sort of stable coins. But DeFi 2.0 is much more about like flexibility and customization in liquidity curves. For example, UniV4 already has provided sort of way to customize your AMM curves and building your own DEXs, playing around your fee sets and how you just change it, and much more. And from developer perspective, I think we have seen in DeFi 2.0 much more interoperability and granularity, which opens the door for innovations, as well as from the financial perspective, also DeFi 2.0 brings more maturity in sort of infrastructures and trading on chain, and also risk management, and providing better insights for institutions to jump into the DeFi.
Awesome.
Yeah, interesting. Actually, I fully agree with both of you. And for us at 1inch, DeFi 2.0, that's first of all about commitment to efficiency. By the way, can you raise your hand if you know why 1inch called 1inch? Okay, no one. All right. One. Perfect. So, but I guess that everyone knows such person as a Bruce Lee, right? And Bruce Lee, famous by his 1inch punch, right? When with very small, distance, you can bet pretty much, everyone. And that's actually core of 1inch. We are trying to do everything in the most efficient way, and that's the goal of DeFi 2.0. And actually, even our recent products as Dev Portal and Fusion, that's just emphasize this point. With Dev Portal, for example, you can enforce your DeFi products by API, and the Fusion, that's first on the market, gasless ability to swap one token to another token.
Amazing, amazing. We've got interesting insights from all of you. One thing I would like to add on DeFi 2.0 would be also just the adoption of institutions. If you look at the financial markets, the biggest player are these institutions, and as these institutions come on chain, that is where the real test of DeFi will happen. Hopefully, in this cycle, with capital efficiency, with scaling, and with products like 1inch, even later on, other RWA projects, these institutions could come there. So I heard a lot of interesting things, and let me go a little off script here, and ask you a few things from that you talked about. And this will be just for individually. So Sogol, you also have this intersection. You talked a lot about capital efficiency. You talked a lot about new primitives, Uniswap, etc. coming up. And you have worked in the intersection of AI crypto as well. AI is a hot theme. So how does AI come and play into DeFi with all these new primitives coming up, but all these new crypto tech coming up as well? What do you think?
Yeah, AI actually can have a very broad role, play a very broad role in intersection of DeFi and other type of blockchain tools, I would say, from very core verifications up to the infrastructure layer, just trades and the fraud detections, etc. But particularly what makes me interested and just made me nudged me just to build something around that was the fact that AMMs particularly are very much the key components of DeFi. And they have they are nothing but programmable smart contracts that allows you seamless trades and on-chain, and also managing your assets basically. But actually, there are the common way or common model of AMMs called constant market makers, which have a lot of advantages, but obviously has its challenges, like slippage, like volatility, the intersection of decentralized and centralized exchanges we call arbitrage, etc. So having those things all in mind, just thinking about like, what would be like the efficient way of trading, I think, in a very volatile and very unpredictable crypto market, just relying heavily on sort of, historical data on chain would not be efficient at all. So AI with its wizard can basically play a very good role here in just blending the historical data with sort of on-chain real-time data and some sort of analysis here, and just add a lot of values and gives like insights about like what would happen in the market and how market shifts actually in the future. That allows you just to have like better strategies and sort of having like preventing you from losing a lot of money, as we just have seen. Particularly also for fraud detection and sort of other use cases like in sort of optimistic roll-ups would be very interesting to use AI as like the big component.
Amazing. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add a quick point to that. So obviously it could feel like AI and DeFi or crypto in general. It seems a bit too early, but I think one of the things I like to think about, one of the key pillars of crypto or blockchain is like censorship resistance, right? So, and one of the key issues we are sort of sensing already with AI is censorship, right? So depending on who controls it, they get to train the models the way they want to, and you've seen something with Google AI and then even ChatGPT. So one of the key interesting things or techs that could emerge is essentially how do you build I reckon, decentralized AI that cannot be censored by single parties, but obviously you can also make a case that anyone can build AI in their own image. But really, I think if you're going after a more neutral, censorship-resistant AI, then I suppose that's kind of where this intersection could play in a key role.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one more thing, Varun, you talked about, and this is to both Varun and Ilya, like DeFi in the current state, there are a lot of scaling initiatives that are going on, right? Varun, you talked about the modular thesis, ZK proofs, different kind of roll-up coming up. So how do you both see the vision of this modular thesis, with the fact that with this modular thesis there is fragmentation of liquidity, then there are multiple bridges that people use. How do you bring both of the, like, what do you think would be the final state with the modular thesis on DeFi?
Yeah, I think maybe it helps to get some more context on what do you mean by monolithic versus modular. Essentially, what's the difference? So I think historically, I think Ethereum is a good example where the way it started is essentially, you can think of that as a decentralized computing platform where basically you are executing a few lines of code across a decentralized network. Now, what Ethereum does, it does both computing and it stores data on the same chain, right? And the argument here was that might actually be not very cost efficient, and it could also be getting in the way of scalability. So Celestia is one of the first chains that actually sort of introduced the modular thesis. So the idea here was that you essentially move all the computation to your own what you call rollup, and then you essentially use the base layer just to store data, right? So by essentially segmenting those two things, you can essentially run computation in a more effective way, and then you're using the base layer as primarily a data availability layer or DA layer, right? So, and the hope here is that this architecture actually allows you to deploy as many rollups as you can, and eventually that leads to a more effective scalability. And we're also seeing that emergence of rollups on Ethereum, obviously, and that sort of led to like, well, if you're already having rollups already, you might as well just build a L1 that is optimized for data availability, and then everything else happens on the rollups, right? So that's the general idea around modular thesis. Now, obviously, from that sense, in theory, it makes sense, right? So now how it's going to emerge is to be seen, but definitely you can see why that trade-off actually makes sense and why that can contribute to scaling, right? So that's generally how yeah, that's the reason why I think this could actually really work. And obviously, in terms of rollup designs, there's optimistic rollups and there's ZK rollups, and I'm sort of more excited about the technology and where ZK sits right now. In the sense that 5 years ago we were like, okay, optimistic rollups are a temporary fix, but ZK is going to be long term, but the tech wasn't there yet. But now the good thing is this is like the end of the 5th year, or like we are actually seeing like some really good tech emerge, like risk zero. And you've got Scroll, you've got even Stockware, they've improved significantly. So I think this is going to be a good year to see how ZK gets applied into various rollup designs as well. And even Polygon is doing something interesting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ilya, 1inch is a lot about efficiency, as you talked about the 1inch punch of Bruce Lee. How do you think, again, of this modular thesis? If there is liquidity on so many chains, how to get efficiency if all of this is fragmented? It does get scale, as Varun talked about, but would love to get your thoughts.
Yeah. So yesterday was, by the way, a very interesting session regarding interoperability, about bridging, about moving assets from one chain to another chain. But on a very, very high level, all this DeFi think about solving the problem with liquidity, right? How you can bring liquidity to particular protocol. And all these things which we are talking about today, like interoperability, how to move from from one chain to another chain, and efficiency, simplicity of user interface, that's all about the same. How to bring to the crypto industry more and more liquidity, and how within all these, let's say, bubbles, to be able to move liquidity from one point to another point. We at 1inch believe that within few years, obviously, to move assets will be very, very easy. Right now, we are working, by the way, on a thing which we are calling right now, that's just a working name, P2P network. That's a kind of meta blockchain, which will allow to agnostically work on different protocols from different blockchain and move them around. As you know, 1inch is about how to build the most efficient way to swap one token to another token. And this problem that there are multiple chains with bridges, that's a problem for us, because right now we can very efficient solve the issue of swapping within one chain, but once person want to swap one token on one chain to another token on another chain, that's already kind of a problem. So we at 1inch also working on that, and all these conversations about bridging, about different approach, even this future solution, P2P network, that's hopefully will solve one day problem of switching from one chain to another.
Amazing. We got some live alpha on what 1inch is building. I think from Polygon side, we have been also working on this interoperability piece by the Polygon ag layer, trying to unify liquidity across different chains. I think as this is solved, you get a more scalable experience, a more efficient experience, and then a more unified liquidity across all these chains. I think in this panel, we have just almost 5 to 10 minutes left. So I'll just start with some quick questions where would love to get your insight. What kind of protocol excites you these days? What are your favorite protocols, if we can get that from every speaker in DeFi?
Yeah, I am very much excited about EigenLayer, and sort of a new protocol I just recently heard of. I forgot the name, but they are doing sort of a decentralized neural network of AI that you can build any type subnets of AI for your project and just makes it like a whole network together. And the other one that I'm very much excited about is sort of a blobs, in Ethereum currently for the scalability reasons, and Uniswap v4, of course, for.
Amazing. Yeah. Uniswap V4, the crowd favorite. Varun, what are the good protocols that excite you?
Obviously, I really like Celestia, right? So given the way they've built everything, right? So I'm also kind of excited about RIS0, and they're going to go live on mainnet, I think, this summer. And for context, RIS0, they have another general purpose ZKVM. So essentially, yeah, their prover times are really, really quick. And I think that could play a pivotal role in terms of just general scalability, in the sense that you can compute ZK proofs and submit the final state on chain. But that's something I'll be really excited about, especially because one, the prover times are really fast, and it also allows anyone to write Rust, which basically means you don't have to learn things like Cairo and so on. You can actually, any developer can just go and simply build the circuits to compute anything you want to do. So that's one of the things I'll be looking forward to.
Amazing. Ilya, over to you. What are the exciting DeFi protocols or general protocols that you see?
I like, from opposite sides of, from one side, I like protocols which are there already for several years, so they prove their efficiency, like, I don't know, Aave, Bancor, and so on. And from other side, I like when people, want to experiment with something new, trying to uncover, something unusual, with interesting approaches and with crazy mix with science. So ZK for sure, and everything related to ZK, I believe that's actually the future. We want to bring more privacy into blockchains. So let's see.
Amazing. Yeah, second rapid fire. What do you guys think about meme coins and all the meme coin rage within DeFi and beyond?
Yeah, I think meme coins are very fun, but in some very short term, very much profitable for people who minted it. But obviously, it has a lot of volatility and also crashes very fast and very hard after the hype is over. I personally think maybe there should be some way to work around that, but I'm not a big fan of it.
So a nay from your side. Varun, are you a yay or a nay, and why?
No, I think meme cost. Okay, at the surface level, it's okay, fine, have your trading dog coins, right? But I think there's an underlying philosophical thing here, where essentially it's a satire against the existing state, if you think about it that way, right? Last time, it's almost like everyone is frustrated with how your governments or the powers that be in the world are sort of, running the system. And meme coins is essentially a way of saying, well, we just don't care at this point. And we're essentially protesting against the existing system. It's a form of anarchy in a way, manifesting in the form of dogs and cats. So that's kind of how I see it.
Amazing. So a yay for you, Ilya.
I believe that meme coins doing for crypto industry pretty much the same as porn doing for all, a lot of other industries. So they moving a lot of things there. So that's obviously bringing interest, right? People are trying to do that the most UI efficient way. So everyone can bring their money in attempt to get 10x, 100x, and so on and so forth. So that's good things from my perspective, right? But there are also obviously bad things, as for example, bad reputation due to rug pulls related sometimes, and speculations, and all of that. So bad and good as always.
Yeah. That's the most interesting analogy I've heard for meme coins. I will give you that. Amazing. So we are constrained by time. We would love to talk more, but
Feel free to keep going. We have until 10:15, and then we could do a Q&A in another room.
oh, okay. I thought this was at 10. So we could just actually, can we discuss till 15?
Yes, go for it.
Oh, amazing. All right, then I think we should have done the rapid fire at the end, but I think it did get the momentum started. I think a few other things that would be very interesting to discuss about. This morning I was outside and I met a person from the government of Pakistan here, another person from the government of it's like South Korea Tax Authority, the IRS of South Korea. And DeFi, and recently Uniswap was also got served by the SEC. What do you think about the tension of DeFi and regulators? Do you think DeFi should be regulated? If yes, what kind of regulation do you think would be fruitful for the industry? What kind of regulations do you think would not be good for the industry? Uh, uh, anyone want to take that?
Okay. So first of all, at 1inch, we want to be compliant with regulators, right? For sure. But what's also true is that regulators are kind of, slow moving. DeFi sphere is pretty new, and a lot of things they are not so common for them, not known. And how to have a deal with particular, new terms, they just don't know. For example, I don't know, DAO, decentralized autonomous organizations, right? So that's absolutely new term because everyone in the DAO might be, from different companies, from different countries, from different jurisdiction, and so on and so forth. And how to treat that from a law perspective, it's unclear. So we, from 1inch, trying to help educate sometimes, government, different, conferences and so on and so forth, and be in a dialogue, right? Just in the most efficient way, be in a dialogue. Sometimes, of course, it might be not so good for us, but that's just, life. We should just learn and move on. Right. So, for example, currently 1inch is not operating fully in US, so swaps, staking are not available, but you can obviously use our wallet, software wallet, and pretty soon hardware wallet. And once you will be more clear about regulators' rules in the US, one day I hope that we will also uncover the main hour functionality.
Yeah, okay, for a disclaimer, Hashflow is fully compliant, right? So,
Yes.
with the regulators. Now that being said, I think I think the way I see it, obviously there's two sides here, right? You have the regulators who want full control on basically the state of finance. Then you have DeFi, which is saying, we want this to be an open source system without the gatekeepers. And I think the end state is going to be something of a state where both parties are equally happy and unhappy, sort of, where both think they got what they wanted, but at the same time it's not quite exactly everything that they wanted, but we can live with that compromise, sort of like a defect, Nash equilibrium, if I have to use that example, or analogy rather. So, but that being said, I think one of the key issues that I tend to see is that we're trying to apply laws from the 1920s to a technology that kind of emerged in 2020, right? So kind of doesn't work in a way that, you have new technology that emerged in the age of the internet. So essentially, if you were to regulate that, you sort of have to build your regulation around, how can you accommodate for this emerging tech? Because otherwise, you sort of in this limbo where you're never going to have a good point where everyone can agree upon, right? So I think that's one of the key things that I think slowly, I think it'll change with as the things emerge and more, I guess, younger people who are in tech become part of the government. I think that should. I'm pretty optimistic about that changing, but otherwise, I think, like I said, in general, the whole idea of regulators is to protect the investor interest and so on, right? So then DeFi and crypto basically, and the way they're doing that is by having more transparency into systems and removing censorship so they can have basically full visibility into bad actors. Then crypto essentially makes that free of cost. They do not need to spend that much cost and operational or infrastructure things to essentially what they do. Like blockchain does it for free, right? So the question is essentially, is the education barrier on how soon can we, how quickly can they understand what this thing does exactly, and essentially what's the impact of that? But then also, obviously, there's a self-interest part, where there are actors who really, really want to control things, right? So that's kind of where the sort of struggle comes into play between state and the tech. And essentially, generally, historically speaking, tech has usually won that battle, but we'll see how this turns out.
No, absolutely agree there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have nevertheless the same ideas as my friends, but actually I see like some levels of regulations are necessary for all type of autonomous technologies, basically just to protect investors first and foremost, and also sort of protecting all type of use case, people that and parties that are involving in sort of this. World of technology by just reducing sort of fraud or sort of other type of bad playing or bad games or bad gamers basically. But the level of regulations are always like beyond like what actually the technology is required, and in most cases I think you just as decentralized kind of technology is not required that much of control over that. Obviously, otherwise it will lose its virginity of being like decentralized and being permissionless. But yeah, the site for sort of protection purposes are necessary, I guess.
Yeah, I think we sort of have a consensus here that old laws cannot be applied to a new technology. We also have a consensus that some regulation is required. And go ahead.
You might, I will add one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just recall that, at the beginning of even before 1inch, we with current co-founders were playing a role of regulators, to be honest. We had a YouTube show called Cryptomaniacs. And what we did, so we analyzed the smart contracts of Ponzi schemes in 2017 and 2018. If you remember, that was wild times with crazy stuff happening. There was like a 3-5% of a daily return, and we were analyzing smart contracts, and we kind of divide good smart contracts and bad smart contracts. So good ones, that's okay. They promise 5% by daily, but there is no way to steal this money. And bad smart contracts was with some very tricky things how authors of the smart contracts can steal. And that was very interesting time because we were kind of in a war between users who was willing to get 10x, 100x, and actually authors of these smart contracts, or these Ponzi schemes. And yeah, so we feel how to be regulators, how to hear all sides and try to understand what's how we should go further.
Oh no, that's actually a very interesting idea, because what you are saying is that you can use this technology itself to sort of self-regulate by understanding malicious smart contract and good smart contract, and then later on eventually identifying who's behind them and sort of protecting investors. And again, as we talked about, the old rules cannot be applied to a new technology. And at the end of the day, always in human history, technology has come up to the top. It has not been stopped by regulators. Eventually, there's a framework figured out. This is very interesting. I think one just general, you guys have built your careers in DeFi and Web3, and in the audience, there are a lot of people who would like to have get more deeper into the space, both from a learning perspective or even from a career perspective. Any general advice for anyone who wants to get deeper into the space from you all?
Okay, I can start. So my recommendations probably will be, first of all, that's networking, right? From my observations, networking is everything in a crypto, because ideas, they just burn and then they just die, but people remain. So first of all, that's do networking. And the second one, just to be open for new ideas, read like math and science as general, and be ready to, to learn something new. That's it.
So I think the first thing I would say is essentially like crypto, the current state is essentially like the internet or the early days of the internet. Like I like to use that analogy. It's essentially kind of where what the internet did to the communication standard. Like crypto is doing that to the idea of how you transact and how you transfer value. So the idea of money and finance, right? So, and I think this is probably the best time to get into this because I think you'll be at the forefront of this tectonic shift that is taking place, right? So, and it's one of the most important inventions of the last few centuries, or more. But that being said, I think one of the key things I would say, like advise anybody who's coming in new, is patience is the key to succeeding in this space. Like, you know, if you're here for short-term gains, so you're seeing something is going up, let me get in, and it doesn't work out, you're like, oh no, I just lost everything. So that's like, you know, essentially, it takes 3 good 4 years to really build and basically power through any kind of downstream bear markets or bull markets or not worry about them. I mean, obviously be open to pivoting. If you're building technology, essentially, listen to the users and pivot as needed, right? Be ready to adapt to how you need to build things to basically address your users, right? But that doesn't mean, you know, essentially, like don't get carried away by, you know, like I want this to be this way, and I don't want to listen to the users. So I listen to your users anytime they give you any kind of feedback. So, but that being said, things, you'll not see overnight success, right? It will take time. But if you keep the persistence, you will eventually be rewarded, right? So patience is the key to doing really well in the space, and obviously be open to learning because like there's new things coming up every day. So there'll be no point in time where you'll be like, I've learned everything. Like you'll still keep learning, and it's fun. Just enjoy that process, right? And I was saying, like, you know, I have Jamison Love here in the audience, and that's kind of how I got into crypto in 2016. And he has like really, really good resources still. I don't know if the blog post is still up, but it's a really, really good platform to just learn about Bitcoin and everything else. And it's a really, really good starting point for anyone who's getting into crypto.
So I can also share a little bit about my own story, and maybe that would be an inspiration also. My path toward Ethereum was started from curiosity and, you know, sort of very unlimited kind of passion about learning and exploring different things. I started 2018 actually as a freelance hacker, being in you know, different hacker houses and hackathons for almost 4 years, and then just ended up starting my own stuff by, you know, proposing something. And I love this particular thing about Ethereum Foundation particularly, that allows everyone just, you know, bring innovations and ideas and become like something on that, and just taken serious actually. And that was like my similar story, that actually I just started proposing EIP that ended up being part of a team at the Ethereum Foundation that were really interested in the project and helped me with, you know, sort of evolving the idea, etc. And also from the other infrastructure company that I started, same way. I just have been in Global Hackathon Paris last year, and that was like the opening for me to enter to the sort of business level, and you know, find new ideas, find people, and just learn more, and just find out you know, what would be like the case for me to start. Maybe last closing thing about this is like, you know, always care about like product market fit, whatever you build, and make sure that actually, you know, the problem that you're tackling is somehow scalable and not going to be vanished by one forever solution kind of thing. And make sure that whatever just actually you're going to add to the ecosystem is not nice to have, and has like some level of, you know, use cases for at least like long-term future.
Amazing. Yeah, I think well, a few 2 cents from my side on this would be, if you want to learn crypto, just be on chain, just use everything that you can, and just experimenting is how you find out new stuff. Follow your curiosity, and if you're trying to be in the space, just network with people. People are looking for good people in the space, and if you like, I got my job honestly by a cold reach out. If you want to do that, feel free to reach out to people and connect. Eventually, you'll be where you want to be. Yeah, so I do have a board up from Chandler about 5 minutes ago.
I was going to say one quick hack that will, if you're really, really new to crypto and looking to see how to get into anything, just become an airdrop farmer. because that will basically force you to use every protocol, and eventually you'll just become like familiar with most things, and you might even make some money by doing that, right? So it's actually a good. We do this with every new hire, especially non-technical hires. Like if you want to really get into crypto, I'm like just go. Here's a $5,000 budget, just airdrop farm everything, and in a month tell me how what have you learned, right? So I think that actually works really well. So that's something I'll recommend anyone else here to try.
Amazing. That's and you make money as well. So that is fun. So, guys, I know we are coming towards the close. Chandler, should we open this for questions? The panel for audience questions?
There's 15 minutes reserved in another room for questions, so feel free to keep going the last few minutes here.
Okay. No, we are almost at time, so I don't think in the next 3 minutes you could cover something great. But yeah, I think this is it. We can move to the questions part.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, panelists. If you guys want to make your way to room 107, 108, and 109 for a Q&A session after, feel free. Otherwise, audience members, feel free to follow them or stay here for the next session. Thank you.